And welcome, my friends, to the show that never ends. And I've got my little buddy here next to me. Don't mind being called buddy, do you?
I do mind being called little.
Little, right. In my big buddy here next to me.
That's just surprised.
and we had a great day yesterday. We went to a football match together. How about that?
Cute.
Been a while. When was the last game we went to? It wasn't the Wycombe final, was it?
No, we had one or two at the start of this season. Might have been Burton.
Burton. Yes. I remember we went to Burton. That was the first home game, I think. And Burton we thought there can't be a worse team. And yet they won 3-0 yesterday, was it? I think it was something like that. Yeah, 3-0 against Lincoln. So they must have improved slightly. Okay, off we go then. Wycombe Wanderers. Sorry, Bristol Rovers. Yeah, it's our fault we won again. Nasty comments on Twitter, I believe.
About to look them up.
Yeah, the nasty comments on Twitter by Bristol Rovers fans. Yes, Wycombe, they shouldn't play like that. They beat us. It's not fair. Yes, it's not fair. We won. Oh. He says, ho, ho, ho. Couldn't quite work out their complaints this time. Yeah, our goalkeeper went down a couple of times to waste time. I'll give them that. They did add on 5 minutes for that. So I think they actually got that time back. What else? Oh, didn't their player get done for wasting time after 7 minutes? Was that right?
Technically, yes, but I'm not sure he was actually trying to waste time, was he?
What was he trying to do then?
I think he just took far too long, and your referee was trying to stamp down his authority.
Right. Okay.
I'm not sure he was wasting time, but it doesn't help their case at all.
Because I have to say, Wycombe I don't think have ever started wasting time after 7 minutes. So Bristol Rovers, you've probably got a record there, the quickest yellow card for wasting time in League One this season. I think that might be the correct case. I think you've won that title. Damn it! I was hoping we'd keep that.
No.
I know. No, shocker. Yeah, and of course we started wasting time when we were winning. Bristol Rovers did waste a little bit of time when they were winning, but it wasn't for long. Okay, how did the game go? Well, read a few of those out. Bristol Rovers opinions.
I'm not going to listen to Joey Barton's 2-minute and 20 little interview, but the headline is, "The side that's probably more pleasing on the eye has lost the game." Okay. Anything else to say about that, Joey? I mean, the thing that got to me was their number 40, the big guy, who they evidently slapped on Grimmer because they assumed that Grimmer would be outmatched being a right back, playing centre back and not as tall. Grimmer actually dealt with him ridiculously well.
He did. Except for once.
In which he just let him through. But in terms of the general game, I mean, they were booting the ball up to him more often than not. They were trying to play out from the back. They did a couple of times. To be fair, I mean, people weren't very happy with the goal that we conceded. I don't think it was actually... The cross should have been stopped by our goalkeeper, but the general play of it I thought was okay.
Do you know, I've looked at that about and I've sort of stopped it in certain stages to take a look at where our players were on the pitch and what was wrong with it. I couldn't see Grimmer really making much of a mistake with that, really. I thought he was in the right place most of the time when the player was moving up the right-hand side. He did let him get the cross over, but they often do. I mean, he's got the advantage. I couldn't really see that Grimmer made any mistake. I thought the biggest problem was the goalkeeper staying on the line. it was obvious to
Yeah.
take a step out and get down to the ball, and he didn't.
The guy taps it in from so close in that you have to question where is the keeper at that point.
Yeah,
It's a hard low cross into the box, but it's at such a tight angle that you're expecting your keeper to get down.
he only needed to be 1 foot further out of the goal, and that was his.
Yeah, I mean, he should be able to dive or put a boot out at the very least. So it was an okay goal, but we probably should have stopped it.
Yeah,
like I don't think it was as bad as we made out at the time.
No, it looked bad on the. It did look bad,
initially looked poor,
and you thought, "My goodness, that was." I mean, how long was that? Was that 7 minutes?
Very early on. Joey has also said, "Do I want to do what they do? Not at all."
What, win?
Yeah, I mean, our first goal was I mean, I think it was a bit of it was a long ball towards Vokes, who played it down, and then we played around it and scored a really nice goal with Wheeler. We said this yesterday. Wheeler always plays well when he
does.
plays.
He's good. He's good.
He's not aesthetically pleasing. He's not, he's not Mehmeti. He's not your star.
He's not a star.
No, but he's your James Milner of old, almost, in which he always plays well.
That's a good. Yeah, I think that's a good sort of. Yes, James Milner of Wycombe.
Yeah, and he pops up with goals more often than not. He's very, very good, and he was very good for us in the Championship as well.
He was.
Can't really fault him much at all.
No.
And yeah, keep him playing in that midfield. Why not?
Well, he offers height.
His leap. I mean, from my master's strength and conditioning perspective, I'd love to see what his test results are for different jumps and things like that, because his leap is ridiculous.
He also offers, depending on what's happening with the game, he can go forward and score. And he's done so. I don't know how many goals he's scored this year. He must come third on the list, I would imagine.
Something like that.
But he also offers a good defence and can do either. From that midfield, whatever's happening with the game, he can either take a step forward or a step back. And that's good, because that's what wing can't do.
No. I mean, Wheeler was doing Vokes' running for him at the front as well.
Yeah.
Wing, he evidently, I'm not sure giving him the number 10, actually. It was too helpful. He's evidently got pressure on his shoulders, and he's trying to, there was one particular moment in the first half where he played a long ball and was trying to, be kind of like that Gerard Lampard kind of player in the middle, who's pinging long balls, there was a couple of shots he had as well that were just awful. He's evidently got pressure on his shoulders, and he thinks he's got to produce, whereas in reality, he's just got to do the dirty work kind of thing and just play it simple. That's all we would really want from him. He did get his goal, so there's a factor in that. It was an okay goal, I think. Scowen was heavily involved in getting the ball back and then giving it to Mehmeti, and there was a bit of pinball, but it was all right. And then we didn't really do too much after that. We were just soaking up pressure, and it wasn't like Bristol Rovers looked like scoring really.
No. Did our goalkeeper have anything to worry about?
Not really.
Don't think so.
No crazy saves or anything.
No, he didn't have to leap across the goal for anything, did he?
No.
And I am getting a little bit fed up with comments from other teams, I must admit. But hey, I shouldn't really read them because they are getting rather annoying. And I'm starting to think, do I not look at these games the same way? Am I that biased that I actually enjoy watching Wycombe Wanderers win, whereas they'd rather lose? I just don't get it. I do not understand. I don't understand. We're sixth, and where are Bristol Rovers? 10th. Are they?
Well, they were very close to it. I think they've dropped a little bit.
Um, and they'd rather be Bristol Rovers, so they'd rather not be in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I find that really odd. I don't understand, and it's not down to luck. We're not lucky.
I
Um,
suppose it's similar. So from an outsider's perspective, there was a season when like Burnley came sixth or something in the Premier League, and people outside would be like, "I'd rather watch Crystal Palace than Burnley,"
mm,
but Burnley came above Crystal Palace. I suppose if you're a Burnley supporter,
right.
you're gonna be fine with that and completely content. But if you were to ask us, who would we rather watch on the TV? We'd say Palace, kind of
Yeah.
thing, more than likely. Um, but as a supporter who goes to the games like you do week in week out, we want to see the team do as well as possible, and we don't care if the way we win is via this method or that method. A goal is a goal at the end of the day, and
Yeah.
we'll celebrate as much
And
as we can.
Bristol Rovers fans would rather lose than.
The problem would be is if we played the style of football we did, and we were genuinely awful, and we didn't win games.
Except we're good
Except we're
at it.
good at what we're doing, and so there's no problem with it because we are higher in the table than the
And
majority of
it
teams
does
in the league.
take skill.
Yeah, there's an element
I
to
mean,
it.
there is skill in it. If it was a one off, that'd be something, but it isn't. We play the style of football and we win the style of football we play, and we beat teams like Ipswich.
And the way we most of the time beat teams is by putting more in than they do. And of
Yeah,
course, I'm not just that other teams don't put in 100%, but we put in that little bit more often than not because we know we're not a great footballing team, as you may want to call it, or whatever. So, I mean, what was our back four? McCarthy, Grimmer, Tafazoli, and Abita. Grimmer and McCarthy on the right could easily be a fullback partnership in League Two. But they're near the top of League One.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you
Grimmer
have to say Obita. Do you think Obita was any good yesterday?
didn't notice him
Right.
particularly.
No, and can I ask about that back line? I'd said to you last week about I couldn't work it out quite whether it was a 3 or a 4.
Hmm.
Did you?
When defending, it was certainly a 4. There were times when it moved to a 3. I think when there were free kicks in like just inside our half, McCarthy would go in front. Whenever we were attacking, wasn't really like that.
Because he's definitely done something to that back line, hasn't he?
There's definitely a moment in
They've
which
discussed it and they've got a strategy for that back line now,
yeah,
where it moves from 3 to 4, back to 3 to a 4, back to a 3, and it keeps changing. And they must have a system that I can't quite figure out yet, but they must know. Grimmer has to know when he's a centre back or when he's a right centre back, as in a
yeah.
right
To
fullback.
be fair, I don't think the centre backs really changed too much. I think if we're attacking down the left, then the movement comes from McCarthy going into the middle because I assume Ainsworth sees that as more of a benefit, stopping a counter attack, than McCarthy being on the other side, assuming that a cross might be overhit. That's the only reason I can really think of as to why he might do it. It definitely occurs at some points. We're not overly sure when or how.
No, we haven't quite figured out when the trigger, when they think, right, now we go into a 3. Can't quite figure that out
It
yet.
didn't happen that much.
No, but it is happening, and it happened last time I watched. What do you reckon to Vokes instead of Hanlon on there this week?
He was okay. Um,
I mean, why would be what would you reckon?
he got involved a bit more. He obviously had a defensive kind of presence, which was fine for the first 60, 70 minutes. The last 20, when we were on the back foot, there was near enough no use for him, and that's not his fault. It's because that the pressing of the two centre backs to move the ball quickly or make a mistake wasn't there whatsoever when he was on the pitch, and so like we were saying, like, where's Hanlon? Why has he not brought Hanlon on? Yeah. And he eventually did in like the 85th.
Yeah, a bit late. We would have brought him on quicker. Hanlon worked his socks off the last time I watched him, and he was all over the pitch. But of course, Vokes doesn't move quite like that. He was better than he's been.
He was better than he's been, and it would have been nice for him to. He didn't have a shot.
No, he wasn't going to score, was he?
There was the one thing that I would have liked to have seen. Was it like I know we've spoken about strikers not being your goal scorers anymore, but you're supposed to shoot a couple of times. And to be fair, he didn't have a chance to. Like, he didn't have any balls fall to him necessarily. But that's not to say you would have liked to have seen a few more from him.
Yeah,
but he was okay.
Do you think he was on there because of his history? That their back line was on 21 or 22 years old. They were a very young side at the back, whereas he would know how to play them. Do you think that was something or not?
They may well have done. He did win a couple of his flick-ons, and I think he won the flick-on for our first goal and things like that. And so that may well have been part of Ainsworth's thinking. You just can't help but think, if Hanlon's going to be successful at Wycombe, then he needs to have a run of games. And he was decent last time. He needs to be put in the team consistently. I know Ainsworth has this thing of he'll play the same team for like 7 matches and then completely mix it up and play that for 7 or 8 matches.
Yeah, it might be the end we've seen of Hanlon for a few weeks.
Yeah,
he's had his run,
which is just a bit of a shame.
Yeah, I mean Freeman didn't he, for a couple of games, and then suddenly he's gone back to sub again.
Farino, he was on the bench, didn't get any time at all. Nice to see Thompson back, I suppose.
Yeah.
There's a potential.
Didn't get his yellow card.
Didn't get his yellow cards. Didn't give away, I don't think, a foul. To be fair to him. I'm not sure he touched the ball either. So.
No, nor do I. I think he didn't touch the ball. Yeah. I mean, he was never the fastest player. I mean, he always came into tackles about 5 seconds too late, and therefore used to just give free kicks away. I always felt, and that bothers me a bit. I've never really. Thompson's good for a fight, but not really a football.
Difficult to say that Scowen doesn't give away a foul or two.
But he
does win them more often.
Yeah. Anything else to say? What about their goalkeeper? He was entertaining, wasn't he? Yeah, the crowd had a good laugh.
I think we made him entertaining. Bless him, Belshaw.
And what was it that people found entertaining about him?
It was just well, it wasn't even. It was just like keepers obviously stretch and keep themselves warm because obviously it's freezing cold, and so our fans just taking the mick the whole time.
Yes, he did little dances in the box, didn't he?
It was a good laugh.
Yeah.
And should point out as well with the linesman, he had his 2 offsides in which he got wrong, and then because of the thing on the corner when the balls doesn't look like it's in the corner when it actually is, just a bit. People were very annoyed in for that as well.
Yes, yeah, the poor linesman, but they're on the left from behind the
people
goal.
Evidently didn't watch Japan versus Germany in the World Cup. But there you go. I mean, you said about the referee being awful. We were pretty good.
Well, yeah, I was going to say I changed my mind a bit. I thought. He scared me, I have to say, because I wasn't quite sure where he was going. He seemed to hand those cards out pretty quick at the beginning, whereas most referees let things go and give them a little warning. People didn't get the warnings to start with. He handed them out, and they were the warnings. So
I don't think he got anything major wrong.
No.
I don't think he had many major calls really to make, in all fairness.
No.
But he was right.
I'd be quite happy with him coming back.
Yeah, he was
Yeah, there's definitely been one or two really rough ones, but yeah, he was all right. He was all right. I think the linesman that we had,
there was one in particular
that was pretty
so
awful.
blatantly obvious.
Yes. I think I don't want
we
him
say
again.
that, and then actually it will be on side. And
yes, well, I mean, behind the goal,
yeah, we're not the
we are biased. I just want to make that clear. As are most fans biased. Okay, let's take a look at the scores. You've got anything else about Wycombe?
Not really.
No. Just I just want to pat Ainsworth on the back and say we're back, and we are moving up the table rather than down. And admittedly, we are sixth, but other teams have got a couple of games in their hand. But I'd rather be sixth. Okay, Accrington won and Barnsley won. That was a little bit of a surprise, wasn't it?
You tell me.
Well, I think I was expecting Barnsley to win that game. And the reason for it is if you look at this, you can see they beat Burton, they beat Peterborough, they've beaten Crewe, they've beaten MK Dons, they've beaten Shrewsbury, they've beaten Forest Green. The last time they lost was Lincoln 1-0 back in October. So I think a draw against Accrington, I thought, was a little bit of a surprise. Admittedly, it was away. I mean, Accrington haven't done well. I mean, they've done all right as well. A couple of draws in there. A draw against Oxford, but they tends to have beaten the lower teams and certainly lost the higher. So Barnsley in fourth, whereas Accrington in 20th. So I think that draw was a bit of a surprise. Good for Wycombe. Next one, Burton 3. Just lost that yesterday. Burton 3, Lincoln 0. What happened there? I think that's probably surprised Lincoln a little bit. I mean, mind you, Lincoln haven't been bombing along. We did draw against them a few weeks ago, but whatever. And yeah, just come as a bit of a surprise. I think I wasn't expecting. I mean, even Burton winning would have been, I would have sort of, raised an eyebrow. But the fact they won 3-0. Cambridge 2, Shrewsbury 1. Well, Cambridge were up there, weren't they? Do you remember at the beginning?
Yeah.
And now they're 19th. We kept saying, didn't we, that it was a temporary thing, and that's certainly it. They've dropped down to 19th. They did win, thank goodness, because had they not, they would have been same points as MK Dons, who were in 21st in the drop-down zone. So important, that win. Charlton 1, Peterborough 1, Cheltenham 0, Plymouth 1. So Plymouth got their point away. So there they sit at the top. And here we go. The Exeter 0, Portsmouth 0. Another draw. I can't remember when was the last time we said Portsmouth won. I can't remember. I must admit, next week I must look up the sackings of managers, and I can't believe they haven't sacked them yet. That manager, Portsmouth. I mean, they haven't, have they?
No.
I don't understand why not. I have to be honest, because they're not doing at all well. Their next match is
you say that they've just beaten Ipswich.
They've just beaten Ipswich. Whoa,
Portsmouth is what it says. Yeah.
what, today?
No. Recently.
Oh, recently, yeah. Uh, but again, another draw there. Sheffield Wednesday 2, Fleetwood 1, no shocks there. Ipswich 3, Oxford 0, no shocks there. And MK Dons against Forest Green. Oh, wow. What a 6-pointer that one is. And MK Dons won that one. Port Vale 1, Morecambe. Bye-bye. And Wycombe 2, Bristol Rovers 1. And so there weren't really any great big shocks. The only one I'd say was a little bit of a surprise was that first one, Accrington 1, Barnsley 1. I don't think any of the others were any great surprise. The table is just daft, really, with those top three. We keep saying that every week. They're off.
Ideally, you don't want to come sixth, do you? Otherwise, you play Sheffield Wednesday, and they do look like they're a lot better than the rest.
Yes. I mean, the 4th, 5th, and 6th are all within 2 points. And 7th. We said that Wycombe were 6th. Well, actually, at the moment, at this exact time, we're 7th because Derby are playing at the moment, and so are Bolton. They're playing each other, I believe, and they're drawing at the moment. Surprise, surprise! They've only been playing for 15 minutes. Bottom 4 haven't changed, but Cambridge and Accrington are definitely dropping down into that horrible bottom 4. So that's that. That's that league. Kieran, let's move on to the Premier League, which is where you're really at, and I don't really know. Let's start with the first one then. You got your 3 minute a game or 2 minute a game or whatever it is we do.
Wasn't it like 30 seconds?
Oh, 30 seconds a game.
3 minute game.
Go on then. Brentford versus Tottenham.
So Brentford's 2-0 up, but Spurs won more points from losing positions than anyone this season. And they did it again because they have to do that. To be fair, their 2 goals were quite nice. Kane had a little push on the centre back when he scored his. Not sure if it was too much of a foul.
I don't think so.
Tony, whether he should actually be playing football at the moment is a different matter.
What do you think is going to happen with him? I've looked at all these, the players that have been done for their gambling, and they don't get a little sort of £1,000 fine. They're actually given certain amount of time banned from football, and I think he's going to get like 8-10 months banned from football.
Trippier get banned recently?
Yes, he did. He did.
I mean, yeah. The thing is that they could easily rub it under the carpet if it was, I don't know, less than 20. But the fact that it's over 200 is a bit of madness. So, yeah, he will probably be stuffed at some point. What are you looking up? How long it was for?
Yeah.
Just look that up.
You did?
No, as in just type that. Yeah, so it was whilst he was at Atletico, and he got a suspension of 10 weeks. And 70k. 10-week match ban. Whilst playing in Spain, and they normally rub everything under the carpet.
And that was 200 football betting regulations as well.
No, that was someone else.
Oh, okay. That was Paul Terry. Oh, right.
I think the rules were different back then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I hope he... Do I hope he does? Because he shouldn't have done it. I mean, I like watching Tony. I think he's quite entertaining to watch. But he's a donkey, and so probably shouldn't have done it. If he does get banned, then fair.
So Trippier getting a 10 week. I mean, 2.5 months for what he did nothing as bad as.
No,
So,
to be honest, actually, Tony off camera seems like a little bit of a douchebag.
I think he's going to get at least 6 months.
Yeah.
You know?
No, because he's like you said before about like he's been on holiday, and he said the Brentford aren't very nice or whatever to random people. So actually, he probably deserves it.
Yeah.
Crystal Palace 0, Fulham 3. Palace had 2 players sent off. We said that you could argue that neither
both were 50-50.
The problem with the first one was that it was dangerous, but he doesn't actually get him badly at all. And there has to be an element of actually injuring the player in those sort of scenarios because everyone's putting a foot in everywhere, and that could be considered dangerous. A yellow probably would have been sufficient. And then the second one, like evidently, Tompkins doesn't put his arm out to elbow Mitrovic.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
But he'd already been booked, so maybe he should have taken a little bit more care. But either way,
I have to say, I'm getting a bit fed up with the rolling around. Footballers have always done it. The rolling. I mean, he was not hurt. I mean, he's a bloody boxer, for God's sake. I know he's not really a boxer, but he could be. I mean, he looks a thug. I mean, Mitrovic, you would not want to meet him down a dark alley, right? And he gets a woof, and he's on the floor dying. I mean, I'm sorry, what a dick. He should get a yellow card as well.
So the problem with you saying that is what about our goalkeeper yesterday?
He should have been booked.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. How are you going to stop it? But Mitrovic should have been booked. He was cheating. He was cheating. And so was our goalkeeper cheating. And the only way you can stop it is book. And the second time you send them off. And if you start doing that across the board, it stops it. And to be honest, when Wycombe's goalkeeper goes down for the second, I'm thinking, oh, bloody hell, I want to go home on time, is what I'm thinking. I don't want him to do it either.
No, but we know that normally produces results.
And what he's doing isn't wasting time. He's stopping the game to keep fidgeting the game around. It's not wasting time. He's not, because he knows it'll be added to the end. He's just messing the game up, is what he's doing. Anyway, yeah. Next.
Everton 1, Wolves 2. Everton just being a bit rubbish again. Why they left all their players up front at the last minute, I do not know. The defending was awful. Wolves, the goals were all right. The first one was actually quite nice, in which it was a over-the-top ball by Moutinho. But the second goal should never have been allowed to happen. So, yeah, that's that.
I was just say, Gordon.
Average.
Where's he gone? He's been average for most of them, isn't he, this season? I mean, he was going to be Mr. Superstar. Well, he ain't anymore, is he?
No, I think Chelsea might change their minds.
I do. He's not a superstar anymore.
Leicester 0, Newcastle 3. Newcastle actually look like they're going to do it, which is fair. Like, they haven't got the best team. Actually shows that Eddie Howe's actually a really good manager. This job that he's doing, because I mean, as much as they have spent money on that sort of thing, their team is okay.
Yeah.
It commonly wouldn't have been top 4.
Well, if you look, I always say if you judge them against an average team, and I always think of Crystal Palace as a, reasonable team. Crystal Palace ain't going down, right? But they're not going to win the title. And you look at the players at Crystal Palace, and you look at the players at Newcastle. Newcastle aren't any better, are they?
Not too much.
I wouldn't judge one against the other. as being Newcastle definitely top 2 or 3 and Crystal Palace.
No,
No.
and
I
so
mean,
it's scary to think what Newcastle could become with a bit more investment.
yeah.
Apparently, they're looking at Enzo Fernandez, who was the young player of the year at the young player of the World Cup,
Right.
along with everyone else. To be fair, but the problem with him is he costs about 100 million.
Right.
So,
So there's not all those amount of
no,
teams can afford it.
but Newcastle could.
What did you think is it Alvarez?
Almiron.
Almiron, I was going to say Alvarez. Almiron, yeah. What do you
Just
do his goal? That's pretty neat,
yeah,
wasn't
it was a nice goal. He's just in form.
it? He is.
That's, I mean, could well be down to Eddie Howe as per
Yeah.
with all of them. So
Well, if you're happy,
yeah,
you're happy on the football pitch, and
yeah, and the other
that
thing
does
is,
make a difference.
Southampton won Brighton 3. Not awful, what to say. Southampton just a bit meh.
Southampton.
Brighton, yeah, the new bloke's done really well.
Yeah, he has. I mean, they're sitting 7th, and I was expecting Brighton to fall apart.
No, there's no reason to fall. I mean, they hadn't lost any of their players necessarily.
But we said about managers, you get rid of one manager, in comes the next, and Eddie Howe has made a difference because of him.
I just think this bloke hasn't changed anything, which is fine, which is what they just needed to do. They just needed to continue what they were doing.
How do you think Mr. Chelsea manager, older Brighton manager, is feeling? Because he's actually 3 points below Brighton with Chelsea.
Well, he had to take the job because he's got. I mean, it's the opportunity to go to a big club, and so that's fine. But he does need to start winning a few more football matches.
Brighton were always sort of, you pointed a finger at Brighton because they always missed them, didn't they? They had loads of chances, looked really good, but missed. Do you know, they've scored 26 goals so far this season, which ain't bad, actually.
No, there's your difference between
and they've let in 20, admittedly, but so that's +6. I mean, you look at the top teams here, you know, +24, +26, a difference. But look below, sort of, you know, Chelsea, which is naught, only scored 17, but let 17 in. And you start going down to just Crystal Palace in 11th, -6. Bournemouth -14. They're doing all right, Brighton, aren't they? They're in 7th. They're just 1 point behind Liverpool. They're doing all right. Only two points below Man United.
Not a Liverpool day for the season. Speaking of which, Aston Villa 1, Liverpool 3. Nice of us to actually play decently for long periods of the match. We did have our 20 minutes in which we didn't, which we have commonly done this season. We looked, I mean, all our goals were really nice, especially the first one with Trent and Robertson. Darwin getting man of the match is funny considering all the chances he misses. But luckily, the thing that you can teach strikers to do is finish. And so once that happens, he should be scoring.
You say that. What about the Aston Villa guy?
Well, I mean, we've said before that he is one of the worst strikers in the league.
Yeah, I don't think you'll be able to teach him. Ollie Watkins, isn't it? I don't think you could teach him to score goals. I don't think he's a striker.
No,
I don't think he should be playing football.
No, because in his first season he scored an awful lot and was actually very decent.
He should be a car mechanic.
He's fallen off a cliff and is now pretty dreadful.
I mean, I wonder how many he's actually scored. Do you know?
No.
I wonder. I suppose I could look it up, but I'm not going to right now because it might take me 5 minutes. Okay then.
And then Arsenal 3, West Ham 1. Again, they weren't great. Their goals were pretty messy. Arsenal.
All three though, with different players. All front line,
different players. One of their goals was actually meant. And was meant to be good with Nketiah, but question the goalkeeper on the second one for Martinelli's, and then The first one was a shot that guy scuffed. And I do think these sort of things will peter out for Arsenal at some point, hence why they won't win it, and City will. But that's not to say that come next season they may do even better.
I think it's often worth a quick look at who they've got next and what they've got coming up. And they're away at Brighton next. I think they'll win that. And then they've got Newcastle.
Yeah, but you could go to any of those games and say, "Oh, I think they win that," because at the moment they probably would.
Yeah, but I think this is going to be interesting because they've got Newcastle, and Newcastle are in the same mode, and so I think that's a possible loss. And then Tottenham in the league. Well, Tottenham, Arsenal, and it's at Tottenham.
Yeah.
That's a different game entirely. That isn't a Premier League game. That's a horrible one-off, isn't it? No matter what. Then they've got Manchester United. Everton should be a winner. Brentford, who knows what Brentford do? I mean, that's a strange one. And then Manchester City. So by mid-February, I think we will know one way or the other. I think if they're sat on top of the league come mid-February, I think the title is theirs.
You would have thought so. I mean,
they've got every variation of football match in there they could possibly have.
Yeah. And who's to say they won't win them all? But I do think there will come a point where they do slip. And they could have done yesterday.
Yep. And there's two matches today. Chelsea against Bournemouth and Manchester United against Nottingham Forest. You will know the scores of those. We won't. So, Kieran, let's have your predictions then. Chelsea versus Bournemouth. This will be fun.
2-1. To be fair, I don't think either of these games will be too interesting. They could just be 2-0 to Chelsea and United.
Really? Well, I reckon United will win theirs, but I think Chelsea and Bournemouth will be a draw. There you go. And I can't remember how many Chelsea players were. 12 Chelsea players were at the World Cup. So I think that might have their chance.
16.
It was. Might make a difference. Okay then, shall we give it a miss here? Yeah, look enthusiastic. Not enthusiastic to bring it to an end. Oh, do we have to? Oh no. Right, okay then. So we'll say goodbye here. Kieran, say goodbye.
Bye.
And I'll say goodbye. See you next week.